Welcome to Holdback Podcast. My name is Jessica Hare. I operate Hare Hollow Farm, and we breed boas, balls, and select colubrids.
Hi, I'm Jana King. I operate ASM Royal Tails, and I breed high-end ball pythons.
We want to share our journey navigating herpetoculture and are dedicated to promoting biohazard safety for all species. And we would love you to answer the question, what's in your holdback rack? Episode 12. Welcome.
Welcome, episode 12. It's like Christmas. A surprise! Except for it's not Christmas anymore. The holidays are over, people.
Of inappropriate jokes.
12 days. Oh, is this all inappropriate? Did you put dirty links in my notes?
I actually didn't. I should have. I guess
you should have. That would have been hilarious.
What's your favorite fanfic?
I don't know what you mean by that.
What? I don't understand.
I don't understand the words you're using. Like, what's my favorite show?
So when a woman is on the internet and between the ages of 13 and maybe 17, they like something. Backstreet Boys, Angel, Jonas Brothers, The Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. You don't know.
I like all those things.
Is a young woman. She's burgeoning with her feelings about boys or girls or whatever. So she's going to write stories about them. And these things are called fanfics. Fanfiction. They're not always explicit, but mostly
so they're
are.
About like your favorite thing in pop culture.
Yeah, some sort of media or person, and then you make up a fantasy scenario, a fantasy fiction of that person doing something.
I have never entered this world.
All right, what's your favorite media thing?
See, last episode, you outed me as the youngest of 9, and now you're going to out me again.
Sorry. Not sorry, actually. Go ahead.
It's fine. It's just like nerd alert. Dang it. There goes all my cool creds. And now everyone's just going to know.
Listen, you don't know what the hell fucking fan fiction is. You're already like 5 steps ahead of the nerd department.
That's true. I'm sure my husband would have known what it was. So, I mean, like, I've heard the word. I just never knew what it meant. So, my favorite thing as a young teen that I hid from the world was Star Trek Voyager.
What's wrong with that? That's not even a nerd thing. That's fine.
It is a nerd thing. It's a huge nerd thing. So at school, middle school, high school, there was this guy, ostracized. He would wear his like Starfleet officer outfit to school.
All right.
And people were super mean to him.
But I into it.
I watched it and I was into it. So I would like sit by him at lunch and chat, and like all the cool kids were like, why are you talking to him? And I was like, well, we got stuff in common. So I would like sit and chat with him, and people would make fun of him, and I'd be like, knock it off. I mean, like, I didn't wear Star Trek to school because I knew better, but we sat and would hang out, and he thought it was, I think he wanted to marry me just because I liked Star Trek too. But
broke his heart.
That is my nerdy confession that I am a Trekker.
Listen, that is barely a confession. Okay, so now that I know that, I need you to type in, I don't know, later, after you had a drink.
Ooh, later. This is dirty.
Well, yeah, whatever you want. Star Trek Voyager, whatever your favorite pairing is from that, and do it in adultfanfiction.net, if that website still exists. If it doesn't, I'm sure just Google. Not now. Jesus. Fucking keep it in your pants. Oh my God.
Is it dirty?
Yes.
The first thing it says is, "Are you 18 years old?"
Yes. Yeah.
See, that's why I don't know. I was a good kid until I was like 30.
Save that tab for later. And
for quiet personal time.
Yeah, personal time. I can't believe I've fucking popped Jana's fanfiction cherry live on the podcast. This is crazy.
Live. This is happening right now. No, the other thing that I wanted you to do is pop my Boa info cherry, which is what I thought we were doing today. I didn't realize we were going to head into some fan fiction.
I didn't either. This is a free-form podcast where God only knows what's going to happen. But we'll get back on topic.
This is not work-friendly. What's that acronym? Not safe for work.
Not safe for life. It's the other one, which is what's happening here. All right, let's go to current events. I re-listened to last week's podcast, and when you framed your question about the Western hognose adult that had died 22 days later, you had asked a specific question, and I think somehow we never answered that question. So for the sake of completeness, I would like to repost the question and then retouch base on it again. How do you feel about that?
I think that's an important continuity.
Right.
I think we should do that.
So your question was, are you responsible as a seller if you tested the animal as negative and it ends up being positive on the buyer's end? Like there's a disparity between your test and the buyer's test.
So I think you are responsible if they followed intake procedure and tested within that first week.
Right, whatever your time frame is as a
or if it's
seller.
crypto after the first poop, or whatever your terms you have discussed, if they followed those terms, because shipping can shake loose a lot of stuff. And so you are responsible to make that sale right and take that animal back and euthanize it, or whatever your protocols or procedures are when that happens. Did you do wrong? I don't think you did wrong. I think that all the correct steps were followed, but the burden of financial responsibility falls on the seller, not the buyer.
Right. The hard part is stuff like, it's been 6 months. The animal was in quarantine the entire time, and you believe that buyer, and only then does it pop positive. It's obviously outside of anyone's normal time period, but it's still possible to believe that buyer. So it's like up to the seller what they'll do at that point.
It would have to be a very specific buyer. It would have to be someone like you. Like if that happened, like I sold you a snake and you, because I've been to your house, I've seen your quarantine, I have seen your not quarantine, which is cleaner than most people's quarantine. So, I mean, like it depends. If it's just some Joe Schmo I've sold multiple snakes to on Morph Market and I don't actually know their setup and they're trying to tell me that the snake has been in for 6 months, I'm not going to believe them.
Yeah. Yeah,
and that falls outside of my store policy. Like it really, I think that's a situational.
Right. I think some people feel the way about 6 months, the way we feel the way about 7 days. So they're like, that's way too long. Who knows what happened to it? So obviously, it's about education that like the snake will not be, let's say we're talking about Nidovirus, it will not be expressing viral particles to be detected, even if it was infected the day you open the box.
Correct.
So it would take longer than even probably a week to display it once infected.
I agree.
6 months though? It is possible then. So you'd have to really truly believe the buyer at that point. But in the case of this snake, I thought it should go back because he already knew it had problems digesting. Not because if they swabbed its body...
You don't believe that he should have sold it in the first place.
Yeah, if they swab its guts and there's crypto deep inside that was never even being expressed in the poop, that isn't why it should be returned. Because no one would have determined that.
No one swabs the guts of their snakes?
Yeah, it's like the same argument. Like, should we take liver biopsies of all boas to see if they have arena? No. That's too much even for me. That would be the only way you would, or taking their brains, but they need their brains. But you could technically take a snake to the vet and check the liver while it's still alive and not kill the snake. It would cost an insane amount of money total over
well, okay,
the lifetime.
So go back to 2012, or was it 2006? Your first colony, you have euthanized everybody who was showing signs, and then you're just like in this holding pattern, not knowing what to do. If liver biopsy had been a choice, well, you would have just tested everybody. But then if liver biopsy had also been a choice, is that something you would have chosen instead of euthanizing the rest because you just didn't know? Or would have testing been enough in that situation? You don't have to answer if it's too much. I just was curious. I don't know,
because the animals I had were not particularly, no offense to the animals I had, they weren't particularly expensive. So it was a $700 biopsy to determine yes, no.
That's fair. It wasn't
sense on a $200 snake. Probably not.
Right. Okay.
I
like
did
a
spend
$15,000
$400 to have a snake euthanized, and I told just in the story, euthanized and then checked, and that one came up negative.
Really?
Right, but there's no PCR. They're just looking at the tissues for like histological changes.
Got it. Okay.
Which is about as useful as fuck all nothing.
Which equaled $400 out of your pocket.
Right.
And
so
more
then,
questions.
then I was like, okay, that was a waste of time. So we'll just euthanize. So that's why PCR, maybe it's somewhat of a curse because it gives you the chance to test things that don't matter potentially. But it also gives you to test all the fucking things that do matter all the time. So, like, thank you, PCR. There's no reason not to use it all the time. I don't know. It's good for me. And I was reading a paper. It was from 2020, and it was about Nido. This is a random aside. Nido, a.k.a. Serpentovirus. And it was talking about the times when Nido goes... It leaves the lungs and has like a party in other tissues. Which doesn't happen all the time. But it was just talking about what other tissues it would go to and do stuff with. And it was actually in the oviduct. They found gross lesions of it in the oviduct. And I was like, So I'm not saying there's vertical transmission in Nidovirus. I'm saying that if an animal has systemic Nido, where the Nido has left the lungs and nasal and oral cavities and is on a mission, it could have vertical transmission. Because our evidence for no vertical transmission with Nidovirus is from one pair of green tree pythons that Pia and Cody Bartolini bred. One pair. And those were healthy animals. But it's possible that a snake that is systemic and is getting ready to die anyway is never going to have any babies.
Well, so my experience with this, anecdotally, because I did not do full necropsies or investigatory surgery after or anything. So my girl that rolled was totally healthy. And then about 2 weeks after she laid, she looked kind of odd after she laid, but I'd never had an albino lay. And maybe it was just her coloration difference. And so I was questioning myself, but she just looked odd. Like the way her body looked, she looked like really sunken, but her weight was great. And so I was just like, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, about 24 hours before she rolled, she started having some mucus, and then she just was dead. She did lay a healthy clutch. They were all fine. I have one left. I should test it just for anecdotal.
Did you test any of them, or did you test one of them, or some of them?
The babies?
Yeah.
I tested none because I didn't know there was vertical transmission.
Well, there isn't vertical transmission on paper.
So, on paper. So, I have one left that hasn't sold yet.
I'm not saying it happens all the time. Like, if you look at this paper...
What I'm saying is that she obviously was not in a great state if she died 2 weeks after birth. But I don't know if the virus activated after she laid because her immune system was suppressed, or if she was actively sick and like hanging on to have her clutch. And then I have another one who is in my isolation rack who's due in the next 2 weeks, and she has never had symptoms. She's completely healthy. She ate up until the point of right before she ovulated. And she is breeding my guy who has been completely healthy, who has continued to eat, has 0 symptoms, but both have had 2 positives. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'll send out that little albino boy in my next batch.
Okay. I don't know if you have to.
Just for curiosity. I don't think I feel like I have to. Like, I feel pretty comfortable saying there's no vertical transmission. But anecdotally, I'm going to just for fun.
Okay. I guess I read that paper, but I didn't think about it hard enough or something. Or maybe I didn't read it. I don't know. It was a paper from 2020. I'll put the paper in the show notes for other people to read. But it just talked about there was no correlation between like species or variant and whether or not it went systemic. So like a lot of them weren't systemic at all. It was still in the lungs. But when it decided to go systemic, it got into the reproductive organs a certain percentage of the time. So
interesting.
That still doesn't mean it can ever vertically transmit. But if it was ever going to, that would be when it would want to do it. So I don't know how you would. I don't know. Life's hard. Snakes suck.
Well, I think in general,
Maybe don't keep a nido-positive colony anymore because
well, yeah, that's my
there's
plan.
even more evidence, just in general for
That's
anybody
not
at home,
safe.
not
Yeah.
for you.
No, yeah. So in the next 2 weeks, once she lays, so my boy was granted a stay of execution just till his girlfriend lays. Um, because I would really, 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 really like at least one fertile egg from that pairing for sentimental reasons. But either way, once she lays, then it's not responsible, in my opinion, even though they are isolated. They have their own rack. They're not anywhere near the other snakes. They have their own day where they get fed with their own equipment. They get cleaned and watered, and they're only touched on that day, and no other snakes are touched on that day. But it's a lot of stress, and he was my favorite to like get out and hold, and like he's the kind of snake that likes to crawl around on things, and none of that is safe based on his Nido status. So he has to just 100% of the time be in his bin. Like I rarely even like pick him up if I don't have to. And I go and take a shower after, but it's just not safe to me for me to be picking him up and letting him crawl on me. And so that's not really any kind of happy or healthy existence for him because that's not, some ball pythons are happy to sit in their enclosure and for you never to touch them, but that's not the kind of ball python that he is. Like I basically just come to the conclusion that I won't be keeping a Nido positive colony, no matter how safely it's done. I just think that the risk and benefits to everyone involved don't make it worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've talked about this before. Go back to episode 7 was the Nidovirus one, which includes Jana's full story and some other tips and tricks and how to test.
So hopefully they lay, hopefully they have a baby that I can keep, and we'll test those babies just for funsies and the, food for thought.
Maybe the way to do it would be to like know a mom is positive, not you, just a scientific
in general. No, for sure.
Somewhere who wants to know, have positive moms, attempt to breed them, the ones that don't die before they're bred. Necropsy the moms after they lay their eggs. Determine which ones have systemic infections. Then of the ones that have systemic, then test the babies from those clutches. So you don't have to just like, obviously like testing most of them is not a good use of money. It's only the ones that are systemic where it's gotten into the oviduct would be an interesting one. All right. And this is not a discussion point. It's just a fucking grinds my gears. Shipping hasn't normalized. I see people shipping on Instagram already. I'm like, are we reading the same fucking post from Ship Your Reptiles?
I love that you posted, don't let sellers or buyers bully you, because I have a seller, although hasn't messaged me since Christmas, so I'm grateful for that was trying to encourage me to take shipment prior to Christmas because they had shipped elsewhere and had successful shipments in December, and I was not comfortable. And I stated that before we finalized purchase, before payment was made, and they were on board with mid-January. And then they just kept like checking. I don't know if they were just being thorough or what, but yeah, shipping is not back to normal. It's not usually back to normal at this time anyway. It's always at minimum waiting until mid-January, correct?
Yes, because people return all their bullshit they didn't want to Amazon. So it takes like literally 2 weeks for the whole thing to sort of get back to like shitty COVID level, not even just shitty Christmas COVID level.
Our new normal.
There was a post on Morph Market Community about this where a gecko buyer was like, I need it now. I've got other geckos from other people. And the seller was like, I'm just not comfortable shipping. To me, I don't want to risk it. It's a crescent gecko. They're not like they're super tough anyway. They need to be like a very narrow range of like cool, not hot, but not cold. And so they refunded their buyer. And I'm like, good. Don't let either person bully you into taking the shipment. And people who are shipping right now are straight dumb. Sorry. Dumb. Dave Palumbo bought 2 adult green tree pythons, and the seller wanted to ship them the week of Christmas. And he was like, I was kind of reluctant, but he really made me do it. The week of Christmas. And those fuckers were late. Of course they were. And they're 2 adult green tree pythons. Of course they're expensive. Why would you ever even like consider this to be an acceptable time to ship?
Nope. Nope. Not gonna do it. Sorry. Like no. It's just a no.
Right. And I think
I know.
people are trying to get, like in Canada, January, February, March is the coldest months. So in the Northeast, those are the coldest months. So like if you don't ship before December, you might literally have to sit on it for 3 more months. Because you can't find like
fair.
a warm enough window.
Yeah.
Fuck it. That's just how it has to go. Like you have to just wait for the warm enough window. It will happen. Yeah. It's not like the Northeast is literally a tundra. It might take a couple weeks for everybody on both sides to be above freezing.
Yeah, I just feel like the things that I'm having shipped now, I mean, not that any animal's life is worth more than another, and I wouldn't ship $100 animal, let alone a $5,000 animal. I'm just saying, like, people need to understand that you can't rush these things. The Amazon culture of I want it tomorrow doesn't work in the reptile industry.
There are breeders really big, gigantic, huge, enormous, mammoth,
rhymes with
shillbanks that tout
we should just call them that from now on. I just thought that's perfect.
That tout their ability to, like, you buy the snake today, you can have it, tomorrow. It'll ship tomorrow and you'll have it the next day. And if you buy it before 5 p.m. on the day, it'll ship that same day because they have FedEx pickup. Whoa. And I'm like, when do you feed your snakes? It must be like Friday night, so they have digested like 2 days. But like, do they?
But they feed like every 2 weeks.
They probably feed every 3 months.
Yikes!
I don't know. I don't know when they feed. I don't want to speculate too bad. But I just have always been like super uncomfortable with like
lots of not good things.
If you buy, you get it immediately.
Nope.
Do you? What about any other criteria for like when's a good time to ship? Moving on. If you haven't been following along with the Reptile Entrepreneur series, that's like for promoting your Instagram account and how to get your account sort of dialed in. It's both a podcast and a set of like reels and still images on Reptile Entrepreneur's Instagram account. I don't know, this doesn't want to discuss it that hard right now. I just want to tell people that they should be following along. And there's like a post from last week where he's like, take a screenshot of your account today on January 1st. And we'll see how you did by the end of the year in terms of growth or whatever sort of property you want to work on. So I just want to encourage people to go check that out because it's actually been like very helpful to me and I'm enjoying it a lot. Have you been able to listen to it?
I have listened to the first and second episodes, but it was in a sleep fatigued, which is basically equal to, like they have said, an inebriated state. I wasn't able to hold on to a lot, and I would really like to go and listen to them again. I think that they had stuff to offer, but it was very hard for me to follow.
All right, well, they're short for Jana.
They are very short. They're like 15 minutes.
Everyone else. So, like, it's not like you're struggling to keep up. And it's still not super complicated, so it's not like you can't figure it out by, like, re-listening to it because it's short. So I would just encourage everyone to check that out. I thought it was fun. Somebody in the reptile hobby is doing something different that still adds value to the hobbies.
I completely think that it adds value. I plan to listen again, and I also plan to share it around because I think that it's a unique approach and has a lot of valuable information in it, and I appreciate that's being done for sure. I look forward to seeing what he does with the series.
So check it out, and we'll recap what we think he's done or if his like plans or ideas have worked for us in the last 6 months, probably in like June. I don't know if we need to like review it as it comes out, but if by June we've implemented some of his strategies and it's really worked out great for us, we will report back.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to following his series a lot and implementing some of the things. I even recommended it to my husband, and he's been listening to some of his past things, and he hates all podcasts, and he was actually listening to it, so that was really exciting.
Did you watch the MJ interviewed Chris Eaton podcast?
I caught most of it, yeah. I did not catch the
I thought it was pretty fun. It's not really newsworthy, and then like anything sort of particularly informational came out. It was
just a good matchup to listen to them riff off of each other.
It was two personalities. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, two kindred spirit personalities
from different
and hearing
different universes, but like somehow they're still the same goober.
I just thought it was interesting. I haven't followed Snakes and a Fat Man very heavily. Like, I know of him, and I have listened to a few of his podcasts, especially when he does like JKR and stuff. So kind of hearing his story a little bit more from his mouth I found that interesting. I really enjoy to hear like people's origin stories or how they've gotten where they are. And I really enjoyed that. Not that I'm sure everybody already knew, but I didn't. So I don't know. It was a good listen.
One day you'll do your homework and listen to old Snakes and the Fat Man.
Yeah, I've got a long homework list. Now I think my kid is sleeping again. We've got her going down earlier. She is still getting up at 5 a.m., but that's okay. So she slept all night last night, which was fantastic. So hopefully that will... Magic Man, please help us. Hopefully that will continue, because, man, 8 hours of sleep felt great.
I'm pro sleep. The other thing I wanted to bring up is Boa Affliction has started sponsoring the Snakes and the Fat Man podcast specifically. His first ad was on the Antoine Hood episode, and Antoine did good, but I didn't think there's anything that like was startlingly new about anything he said. But I was startled by the addition of a boa breeder as a sponsor. Did you see his ad?
No, I didn't make it all the way to the end. So go ahead and tell me about it.
Want me to describe it?
I do.
It is a lady, a young woman with just panties on, bent over in the grass so that her like butt is quite prominent, and she's wearing a white t-shirt that has the Boa Affliction logo on it, but she is a faceless being, mostly consisting of butt and back. And
is there even a boa?
No. And that's the ad read image for the entire duration of his, like, you know, little blurb about his business. And
there's no boa. There's not even like one tastefully draped on her.
No. It's not even. It's like the opposite of a tasteful picture of like a sexy lady in a boa. It looks like they're getting ready to lay out a tarp, and do the sort of outdoor technique for a porn shot. That's what it looks like. It's getting ready to happen. Have I come across to you as a little bit, you know, dark humor, perverted humor? Because that's what I think I am. But I thought that was a little much. Are you looking up the picture?
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to find it.
It's at the very end. Just scroll to the end and look for like a still image of a chick in the grass having a time of her life. What is she paid for these images?
Probably nothing. It's probably like a girlfriend or significant other.
That would be fine.
Thing on the side.
And that's why her face is like omitted. Do you see it?
The wife's like, I will donate my butt. Is it in the beginning or the last 5 seconds?
Last 5 minutes. It feels like the ad read takes forever. You're looking into her anus as you're like trying to pay attention to him talk about Boa Morphs. It's the strangest, most surreal thing possible.
Oh yeah, it's not even tasteful.
No, it sucks.
It's not as bad as you're saying. She's like sitting on her knees.
What do you mean it's not as bad as I'm saying?
It's fine.
Is it?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, like, there should have been a boa around her neck, but no, that's totally, like, guys are totally into that. But it's not. I thought you were mean, like, pornographic. Her ass was in the air.
It kind of
kneeling. All she has on are basically panties that should be a thong, but are not. And
right, it's weird. It's not a thong.
She has a white t-shirt that's, like, tied in a knot in the front, so it's up on her waist. And then her hair is long. But she's sitting up. You made it sound like she was, like, assuming the position to get it.
She's getting ready to. She's in the grass. There's so much about it.
But she literally like has her face in the bushes. She's like sitting in a bush.
So it's not like an absolute pornographic image. They had to put it on YouTube. But it is a very strangely constructed image if you're trying to trick men into buying boas with a sexy lady. Like they
What's even funny is that she has tights on.
does she? I don't.
She
I haven't-
absolutely does. You
Okay.
look down in the corner, you can see that they're footless tights.
Listen. What is going on though? I'm assuming Kenny, the owner of Boa Affliction, was like, this is hilarious. And then Snakes and the Fat Man was like, yeah, it's fine. It's pretty funny. Put it up there. I'm ready to go get some, the rights to some sort of image of like a really ripped dude and like put my logo right on his junk and see if I can just do one episode just to like compare to that. I was like, that's absolutely what we do, because this is...
Okay. Any of you out there really ripped and are willing to put on a man
Or
thong?
like one on each nipple and then a big snake on the junk, like my logo on the
Yeah. So if you're willing to do that for us, you hit up our Instagram.
Yeah.
We have one for the podcast.
I will
now.
pay to have that on one episode, because that was my first thought. I was like, this is fine, but are we like gonna double down this hard? Because I'm still waiting for my All Hot Dudes episode. I ask him every time I see a podcast live, I'm like, where's my banana hammocks? Come on. If we're gonna pretend like this is fucking like just a cool joke, let's have it be equitable. Who would you want
could do
on the All Hot
Guys
Dudes episode? Oh yeah, we totally can.
Let's do it. That'd be funny.
But they need
the
to
top
be
hottest guys in the ball python industry.
God, it'd be hard to pick. There's some real beefcakes. Watch out.
Oh, wait. Who's your number 1 and 2?
God, I don't know. I think
she's not going to say. Now she's blushing. That's fine.
I am a little embarrassed.
I don't think I've ever...
the most attractive person is still Justin, because he's got that, like, nerd...
that sexy college nerd thing.
God.
Like, his wife got a hold of him, and he was all nerdy, and she, like, sexified him, and now he's got it all.
She got him LASIK. She's like, we fixed it.
We fix it. We'll get you something hot to wear.
He finally
we'll get you a little LASIK.
Gained 20 pounds and like fleshed out a little bit. Yeah. Sorry,
That's
Dustin.
funny. That
He's
reminds
never
me
gonna
of one of
sell
my
to
first
us now.
boyfriends. What?
He's never going to sell to us now. No, but I think you could literally construct a reverse harem of like really hot ball python breeders. It would take a lot of work, but you could definitely do it, or at least like a top 5. I don't know if they would want to come on. Sure. They'd be like, fuck you, gross.
They'd probably be offended, but that's funny.
I don't like it when people like talk about my body. Weird. Welcome to the real world.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I definitely have a top 2.
You don't have to spoiler it. This could be the best episode we ever do.
No more spoilers. I mean, JKR, obviously, but that's funny.
I think straight white men want to bang JKR too.
Well, for sure, probably.
Not just for
he's a family man. I'm sure he's not into that.
No, he doesn't have to be into it, but I still think, I don't know, we should get some gay guys on.
I'd love that. There's that cute gay English breeding couple. Yeah, they're adorable. I adore them.
There's a gay YouTuber English couple?
Yes, they're so cute. I'll have to find
them. We have a gay pet tuber that I know of. Yeah,
send it to me. Adorable. They did like a Christmas episode last year, and they like had on like Santa Claus robes. They're so cute.
Yeah, send it to me.
It's too much. It's too much cute.
Used to be a fag. Like the perfect used to be a fag hag, and then I lost my fags, and I've been sad ever since.
Yeah, no, they're. Oh my gosh, I just want to hug them. They're so cute.
Yeah,
I'm like, you guys are the awesomest. And they're like super kind and like, oh my gosh, they're so cute. I'll have to message you what it is. I'll have to look it up.
I have one collection update. In this time of year, nothing really happens, but we finally had a lock between the Japanese rat snakes. Actually, 2 locks. They were fucking last night on top of the fucking plant like wild beasts. And I just want you to know, Jana, rat snake penises are very upsetting to look at for me. Can I describe? No, I won't describe it.
Are they like turtle penises?
Yeah, but yes, most reptiles have a spiky, bulbous, fleshy penis.
Do rat snakes have 2 upsetting penises or just 1?
Yeah, but they still only use 1 at a time.
Where's the fun in that? Spoiler alert.
Whoa, Jana's into DP action. Whoa. They only have one hole though, so
Got 'em, use them.
they don't need both holes filled because they only have one hole. What are we talking about here?
The girls have 2 pockets, don't they?
Right, but there's only one hole, so you can't fit 2 penises in one cloaca. Sorry, or
Well,
maybe if you believe in yourself,
Yeah.
if you stay really positive, maybe you can. You're right. I mean, I've seen
All
that too.
things are possible if it's wanted and consensual.
It might not have been that consensual.
That's fine.
You know, colubrids, they're like, it's spring, so I'm gonna hold you down, and we're gonna see what happens.
Bite you a little.
Yeah, I mean, Jap rats don't bite each other, but he definitely like
Is that the ones that
harasses
change
her into submission. Yes, they do have a little bit of a seasonal color change.
Oh, they're so pretty.
Like the female is finally turning blue now. Also, it took a long time to wake up this spring, so that was interesting. Yeah, I've complained about this to you, and I was like, I can't give you advice right now because mine aren't acting normal. It took a little bit longer to just act like it was spring. So they've been up for 35 days, and they haven't shed. They never shed after brumation. Don't ask me why. All the internet will tell you they haven't shed. They don't shed. And they are finally like acting like it's springtime, and they want to lock.
Now your corns are going to shed, though, right? You'll wait for that shed.
Mm-hmm. And they are doing it. They're doing it slightly later than I imagined. It wasn't like 2 weeks later. It was 3 or 4 weeks later. They're all in shed now.
Yeah, I got to check mine this morning and see if anybody's in shed. I think they were starting to, when I fed them on Sunday, they were starting to look like dusty, but their eyes were not.
Yes, yeah, they should shed.
But that would be like
and
exactly 2 weeks, which was unexpected.
Maybe the king snakes are on point.
We'll see. That would be fantastic because I'm not expecting them to be on point.
Right. It doesn't matter. It doesn't like.
I have a king snake that won't eat ball pythons.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm like, dude, chick, you're fired. Like, get the F out of here. You no longer have a home. Purpose.
Well, you might find you like king snakes or something, and then you'll want to keep it anyway. She might need it scented with something different. Also,
I did not try. I just fed it to the other one. So I'll try scenting it next time. I also did not heat it because normally they don't care. I mean, it was room temperature. It was like 75 degrees. And she immediately took a mouse that was 75 degrees. So I think she was like, what the F are you trying to offer me?
Sometimes they just need a little bit of assistance.
So next time I'll rub the head with mouse and see. Because I don't think she's ever had. She took a quail, no problem. I don't know if she's ever had a ball python. My male got a ball python, even though he's a fatty fat head. So he's not going to get fed for like 2 weeks. But then I'm like, if they shed, hopefully he's not hungry.
Right. You don't have to feed him with any sort of, conditioning necessarily.
My only concern is I was hoping that they would be fed before breeding so that they weren't extra bitey. Because I'm actually more concerned that he's going to eat them than they're going to eat him. Because he's bigger than they are. And he will eat.
Sure. No matter who is what size, you're on supervision duty.
For sure.
For the whole time. They're being paid.
Yeah, they're going into a smaller,
I'd probably just give them like something lean,
towels.
like little quail or something, as a snack. And just see how that goes.
Oh, and then put them together?
Right. That won't necessarily make him a lot fatter than he already is.
That's good advice.
Maybe he has feed him quail for the rest of his life. I don't know. King snakes get fat.
Has been like adult mice instead of when I bought him, he was eating 2 jumbo mice at a time every 2 weeks. So he's just getting an adult mouse every 2 weeks. He ate like 5 days ago and then got a ball python because you can't refreeze that. So he does look like he's thinned down. I put my scale in storage on accident with my show stuff. Oops. He does look like he's thinned down a lot in the last 3 months. He didn't eat for like 10 weeks. So he's not like big and fat like he was, but he's still obviously overweight. Anyway, new subject, moving on. Let's get into the meat and potatoes.
Okay. Some of these are absolutely irrevocably non-arguably true. And some of these might be rumors on internet. Jibber jabber places. Facebook, wherever. Boa people are the fucking worst about explaining the shitty stuff that happens to their snakes, because mostly it's shitty stuff that happens to their snakes. If you've never tested for arena, then you might think that your boa dying, most of your females dying every other year is normal or something. You know what I mean? So it's hard for boa people to sort of communicate that they're dying not from arena or some other issue, but from their own morph combination. So morphs that we've known about for fucking 20 years are still a rumor because no one will come forward and say it. And I'm saying it for you. So if you don't agree with what I think or what I've been told by other people, then you can message me and we will have a section of rebuttals.
Please send rebuttals. That would be fun.
But
we accept all rebuttals or differing opinions.
Yeah, and I don't have to agree with you, but I will hear your rebuttal and maybe put it on the podcast. This was incepted by the morph market community, which was asking for people to tell them which boa morphs have problems. They tagged a bunch of people who don't even have fucking boas. So I came in and made a post, and my post was not sufficient as evidence of the morphs being bad. So they did not change on the Morphopedia anything. There's something really fucked up about how this is working, where like they need like a permanent source somewhere to be evidence for something. So they have to Google it. So if somebody doesn't have a physical website explaining the problems with the morph, it just doesn't count, right?
Well, don't you have a blog on your website?
Right. I could just copy and paste my notes in there and then it would count. But none of my like notes that I was giving to them counted to like the morph problem list at all. So
you should try writing it up and posting it to your site.
Yeah, but it was stupid. So like, but they'll have like evidence for why a morph is bad as like an old forum from the UK or whatever. So forums count, which is not any different than me typing my opinion into
I concur. That's what I'm saying. Type it up on your blog and then it will count.
Right. But I just thought that was like irritating and funny. So here we are making it like a permanent record of the state of boas right now, to the best of my knowledge, which is not complete necessarily. That's all.
Can we just talk about the format really quick?
Right. I have assembled the boas with issues with pictures, and I'm going to show the pictures to Jana, who will have fresh, virginal boa eyes.
Virginal boa eyes. That's why it's like Christmas, guys.
Yeah, to like reflect upon the phenotype for the first time. Right.
Are you going to include a master list underneath the podcast for those who would
I'll
like to look
like
at their fresh
do the
boa
links,
virginal eyes?
The absolute links that we have, and you can just look at the same thing we're looking at if you want to follow along at home. This isn't a video podcast, even though it probably should be, because we fucking suck, so it's fine. But it
will be in the future. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
It's on our to-do list.
We'll have Jana's fresh reaction, and then I will sort of come in with the
experienced information.
Yeah, and then I'll tell you what's hypothetically or actually wrong with it.
Okay, so is all this negative, or is this all the
I did 99% negative. But the good morphs are at the very end with no sort of words or pictures.
Oh, I thought it was going to be a mix. I didn't realize it was going to be all these will die.
Spoiler alert. Most boa morphs have problems, so we basically go over all of them.
Oh, okay. Sure. Go ahead.
Okay.
So I've clicked on the first one. Am I allowed to look at it yet? It's in a different window. Okay, so the first thing I'm clicking on is, is it Scoria?
Scoria.
Scoria?
Mm-hmm.
So it is like this really pretty gold gradient it's grading light to dark from the head to the tail. And then the dorsal is clear, but it has like a dotted stripe running down the side, which gets thicker and more connected towards the tail. And then the tail portion is all white with bigger dots along it. It's beautiful. Did I do a good job?
Yes. So like the base color, what you would describe as gold on other animals is either pink or red or tan or peachy. The base color changes. based on the polygenic parts of the snake. But Scoria is like the absence of a dorsal saddle with the little upside down triangles remaining, and then a very truncated tail.
It's beautiful. Now you're going to tell me everything that's wrong with it. Now, is this one you can breed, but you have to understand there's problems, or is this like spider? It shouldn't be bred.
It's spider. It's basically spider. They all have a wobble. The super is lethal.
So it's the spider of the boa world.
Yes. So it is the jag equivalent, where it's so reduced. It's a neural, a melanocyte dictating where things go problem, and then the neural crest is fucked up because of that. Okay.
It's beautiful.
It is incredibly beautiful. It is the only boa morph with a wobble in the heterozygote. I don't have one. I'll never have one. I don't know why. I know why we breed it, but
you don't support things that are wobbly in the
that
single
come
form.
out broken right away. Fuck. I know lots of people who are quote unquote good boa keepers that would do everything else right, like test for arena and feed slowly and not breed until they're 5 and blah blah blah. They like signal all the good properties, but they'll still keep a Scoria. So I'm like,
interesting.
Okay. It's mostly like there aren't that many morphs in boas. It's hard to take a stand not to do one of the high end ones.
Right.
Because there's only fucking 20 or whatever. Scoria. That's it. We did it. Now.
So the next one is super Motley, but the link you gave me is just a single form.
Right, I gave you 2 links. I just wanted to show you what the heterozygote looks like.
I'm opening it. Whoa. Heterozygote. It looks like a regular boa to me, but it's dark.
Wow.
So
you don't know what boas look like.
No, I really don't.
All right, so let me just jump in real quick. So the Motley is like the most...
This is a pattern one, isn't it?
And color, sort of. It's like the most obvious version of a circle back ladder tail. So if you look at the saddles, they're all connecting on the side and making a circle where the base coat is in between. And ladder tail means like the tail is being striped out and is connecting. Most boa morphs are in this frame of like the top is connecting and the tail is connecting and the sides connect. Circle back lateral tail. They're in that like category. It doesn't mean they're allelic. It just means that's like what happens to boas when they mutate. This Motley has a stripy tail, so it sort of confuses the issue a little bit. But a stripy tail is the same idea. But he is sort of normally colored. Motleys tend to be darker. That's why the IMG Motley is very dark. And it takes a lot of polygenic sort of fire to make a Motley look nice and light.
So the super Motley to me looks like a adult super cinnamon. It's got like the overall dark coloration, and the dorsal is much darker, and then it fades to like lighter brown onto the body when it has some speckling throughout. Anyway, it looks like a super cinnamon to me. One that's aged up, not a newborn of ball pythons.
It's a patternless dark snake, basically, but not black. So like a super cinnamon. Do you want to comment on its head?
It's like the super blushed freckling of the laterals. It's not dark like the dorsal.
You don't recognize the morphological defect? Okay. So this boa's head is like severely deformed. It is not normal at all.
Oh, it's like skinny.
Yeah.
Okay. It looks more like a ball python head than a boa head.
Doesn't even look like a ball python head. It looks like
it's not like
a nightmare head from fucking Tartarus. This head is not normal. This snake is missing smooth muscle across its whole body. It will wither and die as a 2-year-old because the smooth muscle is just not functioning.
That's sad.
So the Motley itself is also missing smooth muscle. It just has one normal allele that like makes up for it. So a Motley heterozygote can live a full life. Like who knows if it can live to 50, but like it can live a long time. The homozygote will die by 2, if not sooner. The missing muscle is like going to be a recurring theme here because whatever mutates pattern. My cat is crinkling wildly in some paper. Excuse me.
Our adorable cat, whom you can see on Instagram.
Excuse me. He's fighting the paper. Oh, God. One second. The super motleys are lethal by 2, unequivocally. People keep trying to make super motleys that live longer. They don't live. So stop making them. Like with other...
People are still trying to make them, even though they know that they die.
Yeah, they're stupid. I don't have a good... It's just like people still try to make a super spider that lives. Like, it's been 20 years. We know they don't live. Stop trying.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm going to outbreed it. Fuck, stop. It's not a second
I have produced
mutation.
Super champagnes via...
Parthenogenesis?
Thank you. And it is sad because they hatch alive. And you have to cull them because they are not compatible with life. And they are the most beautiful pearlescent pink color I have ever seen. And they are not compatible with life. So having to euthanize this like beautiful little, like, don't do it, guys. Come on.
Right. But was also partheno all the time. So very often you'll have mixed litters of like half partheno, half not. It happens all the time. That's why it's not rare. Expect it to happen. You will get super motleys, and you should probably call those immediately. The other supers, maybe you can decide to not call. I don't know. It's up to you, but absolutely call the super motleys. They will live a terrible life, and then they will die. They die over 2 years, which is like the worst part. Like they're all gonna die, but the suffering that they must feel having like missing muscles and like a digestive tract that slowly sort of stops functioning is its own special sort of torture. Fuck you guys. The other thing that happens sometimes is a thing that looks like a super motley will be born from a non-motley pairing. I don't know what's going on there. It's almost like a null allele and like an allele breaks and it makes the phenotype.
Interesting.
Or something. So like people...
It just like spits it out randomly.
And yeah. It's not necessarily a motley, but it's a thing that looks perfectly gray and black and dark like that with a reduced pattern. So it's like a null allele hit a random mutation of a normal wild type allele, and then those also don't live. So don't keep.
I was just gonna say those should be cold, right?
Yes, they will have all the same muscle deficiency issues. I call them super motleys because that's what they look like, but they aren't because it's not the same gene, but it's the same look.
So my favorite combination is the IMG Motley. That's not a problem combination, is it?
No, but Motley in itself has muscle reduction problems. So
even in the single form.
Yes, it just isn't lethal. They can probably live their whole life.
You breed
yes.
Motley.
Yes.
Okay.
If you only bred animals who are perfectly normal, there'd probably
you couldn't breed
4
in
or
boas.
5 morphs. Yeah, basically. Literally 4 or 5 morphs. They live long enough. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if someone has a 40-year-old Motley boa. I don't know if they've even been around that long. So if that's the standard, that they have a relatively normal life, they meet that standard. So a Motley IMG would be a relatively moral pet, but it does have deficiencies that make it different than a wild type animal. Not from IMG. IMG's fine, by the way. Moving on. Describe. What are we on?
We're on Keltic.
Keltic.
And super Keltic.
They're on the same page.
They are on the same page, right next to each other. So the Keltic appears to me to be a red snake. Do they all gradient from the head to the tail, like lighter to darker?
Yes.
Is that like a boa thing in general?
Well, they have like a different tail color period, right? Because they're red tail boas. But the tail can be different colors. But usually the saddles coming up to the tail are one kind of color and the tail is a different kind of color.
So the fact that this one is red from head to tail is unique, correct?
No. The color on this animal doesn't even matter. Like this animal could be a different polygenic mix, and it would be a different color. But that's
So
not.
color is unimportant. It's pattern.
Yeah, I'll tell you when color matters. Sorry, it's
Okay.
confusing.
Is
What
this
was so confused?
making the dorsal pattern square?
Yes. See how it's like another version of circle back ladder tail? Like all the saddles are connected on the sides,
Uh-huh.
making little circles, and the tail this time looks exactly like a ladder. It's connected on the sides, which makes the little like ladder rungs. And the
Yeah.
side medallions are starting to stripe a little bit. They're trying to stripe. So this
Yep.
is like Motley, just weaker. So this is
Okay.
the Mojave to the lesser.
Okay.
It's the same idea. And these ones are probably allelic with Motley. Because look at that super.
It's phenomenally beautiful. It's like a G stripe or something in the that family. It's got a stripe that goes from head to tail along the dorsal.
But what does it look
Um,
like besides the phenotype?
is the face messed up too?
Yeah, it looks like a super Motley, just weaker. So this is your Mojave bell
But is it
instead of a
also
lesser
lethal?
bell. Basically, they don't all die by two because it's like a weaker version, but a lot of them do die by two, and they have neuro problems and muscle problems.
So it's like a super mystic potion version of the bell. Like it's weaker on the
Right, like the continuum of the gene. This
right.
is a less strong version of a Motley. So the heterozygote looks less strong, and the homozygote looks less strong, and it does a little better because of that. But they still don't. It's still a non-viable animal and should be called.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
So you
it
have to
is
be
cool
really
looking, but you
careful
can see the
about
head is really tight and narrowed in the back. You can tell it's missing
yeah.
something fun. And this would
Yeah.
lead into the smoke.
Well, and its neck is really skinny compared to like where it connects to the head. Normally, I feel like it's very wide where the neck connects into the head.
Uh, maybe. I think older animals that they look like that.
Okay.
You're just looking at this like sort of wimpy head width,
hmm
and like when you hold it, it doesn't have any. I want to say turgor pressure, which is like a plant thing, but like their bodies are weak because they literally do not have as much muscles as they're supposed to hold themselves up. So they're not tight like an animal's supposed to be.
Okay.
All right, moving on to smoke. It'll look very similar.
Okay, let me just pull it up. Now, smoke is something you breed. I've heard you say that word before.
No, no, don't have. I don't have Celtic, so how would I make a smoke?
Wait, is a smoke a super Celtic?
No, a smoke is a motley Celtic that looks like a super motley. And if they could ever breed, they'd probably be allelic, but they can't breed. They die.
It also looks like a super cinnamon mess.
Right, so it looks like a super motley, a uniform sort of gray.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, yes. Cinnamon is a good color descriptor, but a super cinnamon can breed and live. These do not. This is a bunch of bummers.
Yeah, why don't you throw in some good stuff too?
I was doing all the bad ones first.
Okay.
Because.
Moving on to jungle.
Jungle.
Well, it's really pretty. Is this a recessive or a
Incomplete dominant.
incomplete
We've been
dominant?
all incomplete dominant so far. I guess I should have said that, but.
So it looks like it's making the spots like big chunks instead of little spots.
This one's hard for me to make you describe. So I will describe what makes a jungle. They have sometimes aberrant saddles, like saddles that are connecting. They have a sort of weird outlined look to the saddles, especially on the tail. And as you get closer to the tail, that doesn't really happen on a normal boa.
Almost like pied outlined.
Yes. And they have like unusually wide white parts in the tail section between the red saddles. And that part will be sort of yellowy looking when normally would be quite white. And a lot of times they just have like a punched up, like high contrast look to them, which sounds all super vague.
I understood all that.
but
I'm looking at it though, so I don't
yeah.
know if people listening will understand this episode, but come look at the links, please.
Yes. And in a super jungle is all of those things just extra. So they will have a even more punched up sort of color variation. They will be usually a little bit more like wacky patterny. They have a little like arrow head stamp, and they almost invariably have a crazy colored eye. Usually it's like solid red or solid orange.
You know what's really interesting is that this is the first time you've shown me like it's supposed to be better in a super form. I actually prefer the single form. Now, are you saying that the super form is also deadly? Because these guys look like they have normal heads.
Yeah, they don't do the muscle thing that the other ones do.
Okay.
Here's what they do. Some of them die before a year. Some of them die at 2 or 3 years. And then the like 5% that make it past 2 or 3 years, those ones die by 8, 9, 10. So most are dead before then. There are only rumors of a super jungle breeding ever. Ever. I have never seen
the link you sent me. He says he has a super jungle, a hypo super jungle, a summit reptiles, and exotics by nature.
Right, but all those snakes are dead. This is an old link.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying that nobody had bred them. You're saying for a while.
No, they've been born, but they do not breed themselves. They are sterile.
They do not make it to breeding age and or are sterile.
So they are born all the time because people fucking suck. People still breed them and sell them for a lot of money. They are beautiful. They're basically sterile. If 1 or 2 have ever bred, well, congratulations.
They're like display only.
That will die by 10 eventually.
Wow.
But a lot of them die by.
So that's like a scaleless ball python kind of like.
Yeah, but a scaleless will live. Most of them won't even live. So a lot of them die before 1. Another set of them die by 2 or 3, and the rest of them die by 10. They barely digest. They have problems growing. Wow, what a great pet. But the jungle heterozygote is fine, pretty much. You can go wild. It adds like a punch of color and like aberrancy. Combine that with hypo, Motley, whatever you want. Heterozygote, good. Homozygote, bad. I have a list of people who do pairings on purpose that are jungle. That is my blacklist. Fuck you. You're not a good person. I can understand if you made a super jungle on accident, because jungle can be subtle and you might not have known, but there's a lot of people who do it on purpose and then sell them that way without telling the customer that it's going to die in a couple of years. Fuck you. You're
That's
a piece
crappy.
Of shit. Yeah. People
because I don't know any, as we can tell, I know nothing about boas. So if I was like, wow, this is a cool looking snake.
Yeah, I've tried to call people out on Facebook about it. I'm like, did you buy this from someone for any amount of money over a pet amount? Because it's not worth shit. Can't breed. It's not worth shit. And they're like, I know all about it. I'm going to try to get it to breed. And I'm like, whoever your seller is a piece of shit. And he's on my list. Fuck that guy. The only time it's excusable to do this is it was literally an accident that you created it at this point. There is a Facebook group. It's called like Super Jungles, where they're trying to like document the problems instead of just believe the problems, that they've made super jungles on purpose. And they're documenting that they all die. You know, most of them die by 1 and some of them live and then they die by 3 and they don't digest good and they'll regurg and die. There's something wrong with
their insides.
Yeah. They do have that like soft look to them. Like they have more muscle than a super motley, but still like a muscle problem. Because in boas, when you mutate color, you mutate something that also controls like muscle deposition. It's another like neurocrest problem.
So is this why it's important to be working like phenotype line breeding?
Yes, because there's not enough.
Because a lot of their morphs are actually like broken allele problem stuff.
Right. Like, so if you could take just a motley and force it to be pink, orange, beautiful, you've done a lot of work because you took something that wants to be black and you amped it up to 10. It probably took you 3 generations to do that. So you can charge $1,500 for that because people recognize that that's rare and weird and you've done a good job. So that's why polygenics matter in boas.
Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing that.
We're like replacing the morphs we don't have with polygenics.
I also like you have to be really careful about what you're breeding. And is that why it's more like 1-to-1 on boas, or is that just because of how long they take to like foreplay and stuff?
It's probably mostly how long they take to foreplay and stuff. But yes, you have to not buy Motleys in all of your snakes and not buy jungles in all of your snakes, etc., etc. But yeah, it's 1-to-1 because it literally takes 3 to 5 months to breed. So how is he going to breed another one in that time? He might breed two if he's fast, but moving on.
So hypo in boas is a incomplete dom?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not recessive like in... So hypo is hypomelanistic in that it's reduced melanin, but it's also sort of a mild pattern modification and color increaser. I think you can tell that. Like there's black is reduced, ergo hypo, but also the pattern's a little crazy.
Yeah, it's like butterfly instead of circles.
Yes. And a super is the hypo, there's nothing wrong with it to me that I can tell.
Yeah, its body shape and condition looks
Pretty normal.
correct from my naked, uneducated eye. Cool, and it makes like little lines. Are the lines normally like empty of color?
What lines are you talking about?
In the super. I skipped ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. You mean like the reverse striping?
Yeah.
So the super is one of those things where like you have to breed it to prove that it's super because it can look like a nice one sometimes. But a very obvious super has very reduced saddles that are like little ladder rungs.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have very cool eyeballs, like with no eyeball stripe often. And they'll be even more color punched up. Super hypo is pretty much fine, but to me, it's missing some muscles again.
Okay.
So the line on the side is just a byproduct of like reducing the overall gray tone. So if you reduce the top and you reduce the bottom, you end up with a line in the middle.
Okay.
So it's like they didn't add
so
that.
It's like pushed
it's just like
the color.
A subtractive effect. That happens in jungles too. That like sort of dorsal lateral meeting line point.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you see how it's like a reduced eye stripe, a reduced stripe behind the eye.
Yeah, it doesn't have like the big
A really
diamond
obvious.
on the head. It just has like a little.
Right. So it's kind of similar to jungle in that they're like a reducer or a color enhancer, whatever. It just doesn't have quite as many problems. Super hypos breed and live. To me, they just have a flat tire look where their muscles aren't quite right. Their heads look fine, but their like body just doesn't have enough. Like if they relax, when they relax, they pancake out. And then a normal boa, when it relaxes, will pancake a little bit, but not to the same extent. And hypo and Motley are allelic. So they are obviously a mutation of the same gene, but more of the gene is functional in the hypo version.
Okay.
But it's still a muscle issue snake to me.
It's still broken where the muscles are made as well.
Right. It's just not nearly severe enough to matter functionally. I do wonder, like, I had a proven super hypo by breeding the last time. He was cool, whatever. But I wonder if female super hypos maybe have some like survivorship issues. Because anything that fucks with musculature is going to fuck with your ability to like hold a litter of babies to term in your snaky version of a uterus, which they don't have a uterus, but it's like a similar idea.
Yeah. It is a muscle.
Yeah. Can they live a full normal life if they're the super hypo female? I have no idea. Arena really confuses that issue for me. Like, nobody tests. Snakes roll constantly after giving birth.
It's skewing the numbers, so you can't get a clear idea.
Why are they rolling? I don't know. And then most people don't even make super hypos anymore because like hypo doesn't matter that much. It's not expensive enough as a combo. It's weird. It's a weird hobby. Like there's no motivation to make a super hypo because it'll ruin the other genes that are in there because it'll reduce them away to nothing. So it's almost better to have like a hypo jungle Aztec VPI snow than it is to have a super hypo jungle Aztec VPI snow because you can actually see what the hell's going on. Boa stuff. Weird. Moving on. So hypos.
It's a lot. Sorry, it's a lot for my brain. I'm just trying to process what you just said.
3 incomplete dominants
Okay.
plus 2 recessives, that would look better without the... It's like having super pastel. It takes so much away because it's so strong that if you could have changed it around and had just one copy of it, it would probably look better.
Okay.
Super hypos aren't particularly frequently made or sold, in my opinion.
So it's more of something people do if they're trying to prove out a snake rather than on purpose because they don't really want that look or the problems that might be associated
it's one of those
with it.
situations where they don't have enough males to go around, so they put a male hypo to a female hypo because they want whatever the product is inside. A certain percentage. You can't even sell super hypos as super hypos until they're bred because some of them don't even look like super hypos. So you have to sell them as possible and probable super hypos. If someone's selling a super hypo and hasn't bred it, they're a charlatan.
Charlatan.
Yeah, that's just how boas work. You can't, the phenotype is not different enough to make a definitive claim. Moving on. What do you think about Aztec?
It seems really busy, accurate. And the top, the dorsal striping, splotting is like all connected, but in
a blocky way,
an aberrant way. And then the tail portion is doing like, it's got that heavier outline. Now, what was it that does that? What other morph does that?
Jungles.
It's got like that heavier outline, but the tail is like underneath, it's like bright white.
Yeah, to me, Aztecs are another circle black ladder tail, but the saddles have been widened, and the saddles are squared off in a way that's kind of peculiar just to Aztec. They do have very white interiors to their tails, but I don't know if that's a gene feature or if that's that phenotype of this particular animal.
It's beautiful.
Go look at the super.
That's what's standing out is the shape of the saddles, and then on the tail, the white is like, whoa.
Right. So it's a CBLT type with a very squared off saddle plan. In the super, you can see what it's like doubling down on.
I can definitely tell that that's the super. Like the pixelation on the sides is a lot more intense. It is almost striped the top.
Right, and sometimes the super will not have these holes in it. It'll just be like a solid top of the square saddle. Like the whole top will be square with no holes in it. This one is like level 10.
Does this have the muscle issues?
I don't think it does. It's mostly neurological problems. They're sterile and most of them die. So that's more like a... See how his head looks normal?
Yeah, he does look kind of normal.
Yeah. It's not the same as Motley and Keltic, but it's still fucked up. It doesn't work either. There's these fucking boas. They're the worst. There are people still. There are people still trying to make supers and see if they get one that works, but it's a waste of time. Well, the reason to get into boas is no one can like make a super of something and then just like grind the price into the ground, right? So this is a negative with a perk. You can't make a super jungle and then make 10,000 jungles. You still have to do it the old-fashioned way and make a litter that's half jungle forever. It's a negative, but because they have problems, the prices are more stable through time. Also, breeding 1-to-1 means the prices are more stable through time. 20 years ago when I was into boas, some prices for some things have come down, but most of them are still about the same.
From 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Some things are more expensive, honestly. Like locality boas are more expensive. Even pre-COVID. So pre-COVID prices in 2019, almost everything is still the same. The albino prices had dropped a little bit because it's recessive, but they were almost exactly the same as they were when I was in high school. They just don't change because you can't make that many boas that quick, and you can't, mainline a morph into 12 females. You have to do it the old-fashioned way. That's why boas are good, because you can always expect a certain price.
Okay, so moving on to, is it Maro or Moran? Moron?
I think it's Maron or
Moron. Okay.
Maron, but it's a French
Marin?
word. Don't ask me why the snake was named after a French word. Maybe it was found in Europe. I think it was named after the French word for chestnuts.
Okay, so explain to me the difference between this and the hypo. Because they look, to my naked, uneducated eye, they look very similar pattern-wise. Is that correct?
A regular Maron looks not like a hypo. It looks like a pastel. The polygenically selected thing where it has high color and not a lot of speckles and a reduction in black from being polygenically selected. Doesn't look anything like a hypo to me.
Because it has like the same butterfly like patterning on the dorsal.
Okay, but that's just something that can happen in a normal without hypo. Hypo just lets that happen. Look at the tail.
Okay.
The tail has a normal amount of black interior to the tail saddles.
It has that pied saddle look. It's got like dark saturated edges that bleed into the red.
Yeah, that's a normal tail.
Okay.
Of a normal boa that exists is having a black border around the red tail saddles. That's how they just come out of nature. So that's a normal tail. If this was a hypo, the black borders would be very reduced. Like missing from the ones that are further up the body and then like struggling to come in further down the body.
Fascinating. Okay, yeah, it doesn't have any dark borders. I see it now.
Right. So this is a Marin, which looks like a pastel. And pastel is polygenic. But Marin is like a monogenic version of pastel. And now you can go look at the super Marin.
That's really pretty. So does color matter on this one? Okay, that's got it. Look, I'm learning. So it's really deep orange.
Yeah, basically Marin is a color mutation, not a pattern mutation. It does have a little like pattern effect. It looks like the super, it sort of outlines the pattern a little bit. And the head spear is a little off, but it's basically a color mutation, which is rare in boas.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that the head is just, the coloration on the top of the head is just as dark as the spots on the tail. Because normally I feel like it fades from really light heads to really dark tails. And this one has a really dark head. Is that normal for the whole morph, or is that just this specific snake?
That's normal for the whole morph. They're like a super saturated boa. That's every part of them has become reddy orange. Like a blood boa, but not recessive. Incomplete dominant.
Right. They're beautiful. Now, does this one have a whole bunch of problems? Because its head looks shaped correctly.
Yeah, it's not a muscle problem. The homozygotes, this is one of those ones that's like a secret nobody wants to tell you because they're $5,000. Never breed. Ever.
Okay.
Ever.
So they're infertile, or they just refuse to breed?
Well, they're probably infertile. I mean, shit in one hand, wish in the other. They don't breed, and they die. I don't know like the ratio of like when they die, but there's no adults alive that I know of right now.
Okay. This one beautiful snake.
I've definitely seen them getting sold on Fauna recently for $5,000. With obviously not telling people. And it's one of those things, it looks just like a polygenic pastel as the heterozygote, so it's very hard to determine when you're breeding it into stuff, if it's maroon or non-maroon. So I don't think it should be bred at all. Even the heterozygote, it's not just easy to distinguish it from a normal pastel. Do you want to have something that has a lethal super floating around that you can't tell apart from just a normal, nice looking snake? I don't think anyone should be breeding it, period. Maybe I'm wrong. Call in. Operators are standing by.
So what you're saying is it's not easy enough to identify, so you could make supers on accident, and supers are infertile and possibly lethal.
Yeah. So why would you want it? I've seen multiple times now, people being like, I'm pretty sure this had maroon in it, the mom, but I can't tell. These babies are pos maroon. I can't tell. Why would you want to buy that? Why would anybody want to buy that?
Okay, so even though it's gorgeous, you can do that with line breeding, can't you?
Yes, and those line bred ones are fine.
They don't have any
possible
problems.
There's like other genes like maroon in the line bred lines. You know what I mean? Like obviously genes come out of the wild all the time. So I'm prepared to be like, there's other monogenic genes that suck that are already accidentally in pastel lines. But why you would want to do it on purpose? Sucks to me. Moving on. All right, so Key West is just another circle-back ladder tail version. The saddles are connected with a little bitty strip at the sides.
Okay.
And the tail is a little bitty bit connected. Sometimes the side medallions are connected a little bit, but it mostly looks normal. A Key West is the same as a Roswell Tail, and it's the same as a Parsons Guyana mutation. There's one of those situations where it probably came from boa constrictor species. It got half bred into importer stuff, and then 2 people found it independently, Key West and RLT, and they were like, it's a new morph. And we have 3 of the exact same fucking things.
There is a lot of that in ball pythons.
Yes, so this is the same situation. The Key West have dark eyes as a heterozygote, and as a combo, they combo with like really black eyes. So a Key West Motley has black eyes. Like jet black eyes. It's cool.
So the next one I opened says Roswell Boa female, and this one has complete dorsal striping and lateral striping.
Right, so that is the super Key West / Roswell, or RLT is a Roswell.
Okay, and you're about to tell me that this is the worst thing ever because I freaking love it.
No, they are amazing. They do better than some things.
It's literally like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers of stripe.
Yeah, they're very cool. I'll probably try to make them. But my understanding is they can live to adulthood, they can breed, they don't have neuro issues, they don't particularly have muscle issues, but they have a higher than normal loss rate in litters. So if somebody's gonna die, either by slug or by, stillborn, it's gonna be the supers. And nobody knows why right now. So
the supers die at a higher rate when they're born, or the super that's producing offspring has more deaths?
No, yeah, we don't know about that part. The babies themselves, when they're being born, aren't born at a normal rate.
Okay. So the ones that are not good are dying right away.
I was told that they're dying because there's something about the sac that they're born in that it breaks early, and they
drown.
They drown before they can be born. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. I haven't experienced it. But you see them for sale more often. Their bodies look normal. Their heads look normal, and that's half the battle right there. Are
there combos with this super?
Yes, there's like they've albinoed it, they've hypoed it, etc. There just aren't enough adults to be like, yes, all the adults that exist are perfectly fine. But there are adults that breed, and there are adults that are fine. I just don't know if we have like enough. And the reason why we don't have enough is they tend to die in birth or aren't born, period. So if you were supposed to get 25%, you don't get 25%. You get 2 living ones out of a litter of 20. So what happened? I will try to breed them, and I'll report back in 2 years, maybe 3.
Very unique look for a boa.
To me, they still look like a version of what happens to a super Keltic or a super Motley or a whatever, where everything has decided to stripe out so much that it becomes, like on a Motley, it stripes out so much it becomes uniform. But on a Key West, the stripes, because it's a weaker circle-back ladder tail, they stay stripes. Remember the super Keltic had a dorsal stripe still?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is like weaker still. So this super could live and breed because it's like the weakest form of it. It isn't the weakest. There's one that's even weaker. But there's like a gradient of circle-back ladder tail things in boas that are incomplete dominant, that some of them live, some of them die. And the more strong they are, the more likely they are to die. It
The
is cool,
stronger
though.
the reaction that you see, the more likely they are to die.
Yes. That means
Okay.
the gene is fucked up too much. But yeah, this is really nice. And because it's half boa constrictor constrictor, that's why it's all red and nice looking. So these are hybrids. Unless you got a pure Parsons Guyana mutation.
Call sharp.
All right, you can look at that if you want, but you know what an albino looks like, right?
Yep, and I already looked at the image.
So both call strain and sharp strain, the only two T negative albinos in boas, can be born with fluid in one or both eyes. Sometimes the fluid will leak out and the eye will be fine. Sometimes the fluid will leak out and the eye will be scarred, but maybe still somewhat functional. Sometimes the eye will completely fail and then it'll like scab over and there won't be much left in the socket. You can't breed away from it. It's the same thing as a spider wobble or a eyeball issue in a palmetto. You can't. People have been trying to breed away from it for 20 years. Like, tell me.
So it's a random occurrence. It doesn't matter how good your stock is.
Right. My sharp ones through 2 eyeball ones, I rehomed them at like pet prices or free, basically. It was free. But those animals are fine, technically. They're perfectly good breeders. They won't throw it at a higher rate than another one.
So
It's another one that's irritating
is
things.
that the only morph of albino, or is there a straight albino that's better?
Yeah, all the T pluses don't do that. And there are many T plus lines. So,
Why use the sharp line?
or call. The sharp
Okay.
is better than the call, maybe not for eyeball reasons, but because it's allelic with some of the T plus lines. So you can make something with the T pluses that looks pretty cool without. Call does nothing. And it's like the least attractive one to me.
It's like the caramel of the ball python world.
No. Caramel is like so negatively perceived. It's like lesser, right?
Okay.
The super kind of sucks, and you have to combine the super with Mojave to have like a super that the eyes aren't fucked up. It fucks up combos. It's like that. But the calls are just as well respected, and they have a nice people working with them, like the sun dragons and blood dragons. Most of the original versions of those are call blood combos. But I think in terms of pure preference, the VPI line is the prestige albino line. It's a T plus line.
And it does not have the eye problems?
No, yeah. And it has enough melanin that it's toes the line between, a T plus that's strong enough to have no problems, but enough color is removed that it looks cool. Like the Berkstone T plus is very cool looking, but also like strange. It's a strange color. So that one is poo-pooed too, just because people think it's less attractive. I don't know. But all of those are fine. All T pluses are fine, beautiful, magical. T negatives, both of them, eye problems. But you can't breed away from it. You just have to accept it. But I think people that, call people who breed a T neg with eye problems a bad person are confused about how the biology works.
How come as a community they haven't come out and just stopped using the call sharp line?
I don't know. Probably because they're mostly fine. And once the eyeball falls out or it doesn't fall out, the snake is fine forever after that.
Oh, okay. So it's just the eyes.
Yeah, so it's not like spider where they're always a spider. Like they have a wobble that's, stress-based and maybe transitory in that way, but it always has a wobble of some kind. The eye will fall out and that'll be the end of that. And it'll be a happy snake forever. No additional. And they might be like drippy for a little bit, which sounds gross. But as the eye like finishes healing, it's fine.
Yep. Okay. And so the next one on your list is fires.
This is one where people have argued with me on the internet, but I own fires, so I can touch them. I know what they look like.
Okay. I see that it's like a grayish pink type snake. Is that...
So fire
you do
to
it.
me, okay. Fire to me is like the fire gene in ball pythons, like strips away a layer of color. Not necessarily like pure melanin, but just like a layer of melanin or something. You're not even sure what it's quite. You're just like, why is that one a little lighter and weird looking? That's exactly what fire does in boas.
Exactly. Okay, I can
It does
absolutely see
reduce
that.
pattern a teeny tiny bit, which makes sense. Like the
Those
fire.
listening at home, pretend I totally said that because it sounds smart.
Like fire and ball pythons sort of reduces pattern too, and it tries to stripe on the top a little bit, and it makes this like granite thing happen. So imagine that, but in boas, where it's like it's tightening up the saddles a tiny bit, the head spear's a little tighter. It's like a little bit of a pattern reducer, but like mostly a color just got whooshed away. It got like stone washed off. And the super is a white snake that sometimes have speckles, just like with fire, with black eyes.
Oh, so it literally is, because most of the time the words are not the same.
No, they are not.
But this one's very comparable.
Yeah, well, when Jeremy Stone did it, he wanted the male superfires to be called Emperor Diamonds and the female superfires to be called Princess Diamonds, because that's like something that happens in third world countries when they find a cool diamond. It gets gendered or something. But the babies will be called fires because like diamonds have fire in them. It wasn't actually because of the name of ball pythons, but everybody was like,
interesting.
I'm not going to call it a Princess Diamond just because it's a girl. People call them super
Everybody
fires.
was like, no.
I mean, I saw some real team players like trying to like support him in his naming convention, but for the most part, most people are just calling them super fires because of A, it's easier to say, and then B, it makes more sense to a new person being like, is an Emperor Diamond the same as a Princess Diamond? Yes, it's the same gene, just different genders of snakes.
Or is a diamond the same as a fire?
Right. You don't need 10 names for the same thing.
Right.
Super fire. To me, they all look like they have tiny eyes, thin skin. Like there's something about the taking away of melanin that makes their skin physically thinner.
And this is a super form of fire, not the regular.
And the heterozygote. The fires are thinner skinned, and I've had people tell me it's because they're hybrids. So you know the story of fire, right?
I sure don't.
Oh, shit.
Other than the diamond story you just previously told. That's my subtotal.
Okay. Well, there's the story.
Well, and I know that you have it.
The story the federal government tells, and the government of Brazil, and the story that Jeremy Stone sells.
Okay. Let's hear them. I'm excited. Story corner.
I'm sort of like doing it off the cuff, so I could mess up the details. But the short version is, the federal government has a conviction of Jeremy Stone for wildlife smuggling for the original fires. Their story, which they have a conviction for, is that he and his sister went to...
So it's not allegedly, it's convicted.
Yes. But then his story is different. And you know, everybody's story.
Him and his sister
went into... I want to say it was Colombia. I could be wrong. Doesn't matter, a non-Brazil country that you can export boas from, and then cross the border into Brazil. She may or may not have put a little white boa, so like a homozygote, into a pregnancy belly, like fat suit, like the negative space in a pregnancy belly fat suit. Cross the border back into Colombia, or whatever country that allows export of boas, because Brazil does not allow export of any boas. And then,
would they go in the regards to find the specific white snake, or were they like, "Oh f, this is awesome, put it in"?
No, they knew a white snake existed.
Okay,
according to the federal government and the Brazilian government, there were supposedly
there
actually two of them.
For that.
Yes, and the first one died or whatever, and the second one they found, and may or may not have gone into a pregnancy belly, and then had a normal customs form from Colombia, like it was a Colombian and not a Brazilian boa.
Okay.
And then was imported legally into the U.S. as if it was a Colombian boa.
Smooth. And now what's his take?
Oh, fuck. There was white snakes in Brazil, and they all died. And then he got a completely additional new, unrelated white snake from Colombia.
Totally fair and square. Ignore that glaring conviction. An evidentiary support
and the federal
of
government saw
smuggling.
that there were 2 white snakes and got confused about which ones were from where. And no pregnancy belly ever crossed the border
happened
on his sister. What a team player she was. Let's talk about that.
She is innocent. She is innocent of pregnancy belly. Maybe she was bloated that day with
bloated.
A snake.
Yeah.
I'm sure that totally the lawyers were like, we cannot comment on the state of her belly. That is inappropriate.
Right. And then he was found guilty of the wildlife trafficking charges. And the country of Brazil wanted to seize the animal, but the animal no longer existed or was dead or was transported somewhere outside of his control. Nobody knows. I think he said it was dead, but I don't know where it went.
But had it produced offspring? Because obviously fire is in...
Mm-hmm. That's why we call it the smuggler's boa. Here it is.
Here it is.
So they
beautiful.
They seized 7 of that original male's offspring that he had already made, and Jeremy Stone still held on to. He'd already sold a bunch though. But where was the original?
The ones
male?
He had not moved, and the original male were
He's still
already
really
gone.
in the project, so
his buddy's house.
Yeah, we'll see how many. So they did not seize ones that were sold to other people, but the Brazilian government seized the immediate offspring, but not the original male. Those were gone. I think he had to pay money reparations. I don't think he went to jail or anything because it's just a white collar crime sort of.
Right.
It's fine, whatever. But now this morph is the smuggler diamond, or there's some sort of, there's lots of in jokes.
That's really funny.
His sort of conviction and story is
But
all in a National Geographic article from a long time ago. If you want to read it, I probably messed up a couple of details, but that's it.
That's fine.
But his
you got
story,
the gist of it.
In his opinion, is on a Dave Palumbo Muscle Serpents University interview, and hearing. I don't know if he'll ever listen to this, but hearing you struggle to tell a story that's coherent somehow ignores the conviction is also very strange. Listen to those one day, whenever, it doesn't matter. Listen to those 2 things and be like, who do you believe here? I'll have you decide.
Thank you for your breaking and skirting the rules to offer us this new fire gene. That's what I believe.
Yeah, it's fine. And
then, that snake who shall not be in his possession is still somehow producing offspring for his possession.
Yeah, he has an awful lot of, market share in that project for someone who didn't have any more.
Who got his all seized by the Colombian government.
Oh, weird. And then the other thing that's what I was bringing up is they don't look like babies from North Brazil. So boa constrictor. They look like boa constrictor amarelli, and all these subspecies are gone. But they look like a different locality, which matches the locality of the zoo. So those animals have physically different bodies than Colombian imperators or North Brazilian constrictors. So all those little tight saddles and a little small tail and the weird head are where it was smuggled from, not Colombia. They don't look like Colombians. The base phenotype of the animal.
What you're saying is you can physically tell that it's a Brazilian boa.
Yes. And especially the closer it gets to the F1s or F2s, it looks more and more like a Brazilian. Even mine look like Brazilians. But people have told me that they think that the thin skin and the small eyes is because it's part Brazilian amarelli. And I'm like, maybe. But between litter mates in the same litter, the fire and the non-fire litter mates, the fire ones have different physical features.
Yeah.
So
and is there any interbreeding ground between Brazil and Colombia?
Not that part.
In nature.
Not that
in
part.
In nature, do they mix? Okay.
The top part of Brazil obviously is touching the Guyana Shield countries. So there's a point where boa constrictor and imperator mix, but amarelli's to the south. So the snake would have to get on a plane and fly up to Colombia. Get in a pregnant
belly.
Yeah, to make that combo happen.
Okay. I was just curious if that was even feasible.
I obviously animal smuggling is bad, but there are countries where like
if you're convicted of it, why not just absolutely own it and be like, I got excited, I messed up, I paid for it.
but now
Don't
it's in
be
a
like
hobby.
me, but I contribute to the hobby with my illegal activities. You're
I
welcome.
don't know. I don't know why he didn't like just be like, okay, I fucked up. Don't do that. Like Tom Crutchfield and other people who like smuggled drugs and snakes in the same shipment. They've pretty much
Yeah,
come
like
come
I
out
get
that they're
it.
like they fucked up, but they still like snakes. They just needed to like fund their snake hobby.
Yeah, I mean, it literally you're convicted of it. Just own it at that point.
He still claims he was completely innocent. Two different white snakes.
Well, maybe he didn't bring it over the border in his sister's fake pregnant belly. Maybe he paid someone else to bring it over the border and they tricked him into believing it was Colombian, even though it looked exactly like a Brazilian.
Whenever you have a chance, read that National Geographic article that has
I'm
like
going to.
lifted stuff from the like original indictment. I just thought
That's really funny.
it
Okay,
is so funny.
I'll have to do that in my homework and we can
Yeah,
report back next
it
week.
doesn't matter, but it's just like in terms of like reptile world drama, for the most part, ball python countries are like, fuck, take them all, quick. I don't want any of them. But like, there's
Right.
other species where
No,
there's lots of drama where everyone's like,
no, ball
whoa,
pythons. They are very happy to export as many as
yeah,
we
please
want.
take more.
Please take more and more and more.
So
Well, and then
I
like
don't have
there
a
are
super
people who it's like
fire.
their whole family history profession is to go out and find wacko stuff that people are going to pay $50,000 for.
Right, right. So they're just
Their
depends on
whole
the
point.
like, yeah, it depends on the like almost the no offense to snakes or people, like the GDP of the country in question. If the country has a lot of money, they usually have closed borders. If they don't, then they need those sort of wildlife trade sales.
Correct.
It's just it's kind of sucks because it's like I don't know, like there's a way to do wildlife trade that's not a complete carpet bomb of a species in a particular wild area. There's a way
Correct.
to do it not. And probably in the places where it's a low GDP country, it's probably complete carpet bombing and fucking it up.
Well, I get told the story and I like to believe it because it makes me feel happy that a lot of our import stuff, unless specifically stated, I know that the Volta ball pythons are definitely not this way. They come in as adult females, usually pregnant, 1 or 2 years old, and they're humongous. But they're from a specific region, and there's no getting around like admitting that those are wild hatched, wild caught. But what I was understanding is that they have like ball python farms, and they capture wild ball python females that are pregnant, have them in captivity till they lay, and then they release the parent back out into the wild and they keep the eggs and incubate them. Is that a wild fantasy? Is that not what happens?
That is what happens.
Because that's
I'll
what I
tell
was
you
told.
why that's bad. You might not believe me, but I will tell you why, even though that sounds good on paper. A, they bring them to a central place with no regard to like diseases or health.
Correct.
And they do not return them to the place they came from. They get mixed together in like a bulk bag. Whatever genes or phenotypes that have been like they're being selected for as like a good survival mechanism in a particular spot of their range, they're getting like ameliorated by getting mixed continuously back again. Because animals are just a platform for like genes to do stuff. And the genes get selective pressures on them to do really good in a very specific spot. So if I took a white-tailed deer from Minnesota and put it in Florida, and the Florida one in Minnesota, they would both die, even though they're the same species. Because there's a lot of proteins that are working better in a cold
So what you're
weather.
saying is they're putting them back, but they're not putting them back correctly, and they've mixed them with others, and so
It's an ecological nightmare either
the
way.
species is not being helped. It's actually
Right,
negatively being impacted by those releases. Like it would be better if they weren't releasing. Re-releasing.
I don't know. This is like a case where we are allowing them to ranch a landscape for an animal that probably in the wild doesn't breed till 6 and has a high mortality up to adulthood. You need a high sort of adult persistence to have the population be stable. It's like it is with turtles. You can predict population decline really quickly in an animal where the females take a long time to breed. If you just like accidentally kill a certain number of females. What I'm saying is it's better than nothing.
Okay. But it's not the warm, fuzzy, happy story that I thought it was.
No, because they're not doing it very well. Let's say like there was a ranch that was going to ranch ball pythons on their 5-mile like quadrat, and they were going to geotag the location of the mom when she is picked up and put her back where she belongs. Maybe. But right now, it's literally like hundreds of miles of driving around. Like private parties will drop them off at a location.
Central location.
And then maybe
they just release them from the central location?
No, they do try to drive somewhere, but they don't necessarily drive them back wherever. They just drive them back. Like, here's some woods.
Yeah.
They do spread them back out. And so that's why, like, Volta is not a thing. Volta is just a code word now for a large female. Just, like, unusually large. She's probably just old. Because Volta is most of the region that ball pythons come from. If the ball python range is, like a U.S. equivalent. If the ball python range is Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, the Volta region of the ball python range is Florida and Georgia. Like, it's most of ball python's range. So saying...
Really? Because I thought it was like a small valley that they were finding them in.
They're so full of shit.
Crap. Okay.
It's just like, did someone find a big fucking exciting looking female adult? That's a Volta now. Like,
okay.
Of the ones that get imported.
Anything that's wild caught that's over 5,000, they're going to call it a Volta now.
Yes.
Interesting.
Could you go to Africa right now and get a locality specific from Volta? Yes, but it probably isn't even big or whatever. That's usually just an age. And then they did that stupid fucking mixing thing. So even if there was a genotype that was getting bigger, we won't know anymore because they have mixed the shit out of the entire species. It is a homogeneous fucking nightmare now.
But for their benefit, though, now that because that's going to cause more mutations, isn't it? If you're stirring the genetic pot, basically.
I've heard that multiple times from multiple people. It actually makes zero sense. Do you know how you get to see a mutation? When highly related to each other animals are breeding together. That's when you see recessives. If it's highly sort of, if we've mixed the shit out of it, rare alleles will not interact with their other rare allele counterpart. In terms of like incomplete dominance, mutating and forming, that's still just the normal base rate, right?
Right.
Right.
Okay, so we've gone off on a tangent. Do you want to recircle back?
There are two types of leopard boas. One's where the spots are spottier, like they look more like a leopard rosette. And then there are ones where it's more of like a granite-looking pattern. Those are the same ass gene. They are just two types. The onyx...
Really?
Yeah. So
because, they look really different.
It's mostly because the one that looked like a marble or whatever, like that granite marble look, are pure Boa Sigma, and these sort of circle ones are partial something else. Because the polygenic of a Sigma is really busy and complicated. So then if you add a complicating gene to it, it'll have this mosaic thing. If you have a clean animal like a Colombian and you add leopard to it, you end up with these circles. It's all polygenics there, baby.
Okay, because the really, really granity, swirly-dirly, pixelated happiness is incredible.
Then you want pure Boa Stigma leopards. It's cool. I actually like the circle ones better. They look more like a leopard rosette.
So I'm looking on Google and there's one that says the cutting edge herpetological ink.
Right.
And it's like a red one and it's got like the rosettes. Is that the one you mean?
Yeah, I
And then the
prefer that
tail
look.
is more like a pixelated. And then I'm looking at one that's like Bloomin' Boas, the collection of
Right.
boas that Bloomin' Boas, and it's
That's
like
the mosaic
hot,
type. Exact same
hot
gene.
magic.
Exact same gene. Different polygenics. That's why boas are really cool.
Is this recessive or dominant
It's
or incomplete
recessive.
dom?
So it's more
Dang, of course it
fine.
is.
More fine. But there are rumors about the recessive homozygote having digestion problems. Like they need small meals for a long time. They still breed though. They do fine.
Well, that's amazing. It almost has like the carpet python look.
Mm-hmm.
The really busy one. That's hot. All right, interesting.
The last one we'll do is zeros.
Because this is striping as well. So it's got a stripe along either side of the dorsal that goes all the way down the body.
Right, but the stripe can sometimes not be there. So it's basically like a sterling, which is like a patternless snake that kind of has a stripe, but from Huangchikata. Huangchikata is a subspecies that no longer exists that used to be an imperator. Huangchikata.
Because they switched all that up, right?
Yeah, they got rid of subspecies, but I still refer to the old subspecies, obviously. So it's a locality morph, but in that locality they IMG themselves because that's just something that happens. And
Is that what I'm seeing here in this link I just sent you?
So
of
they
the
are
snake in the water?
They are IMGing their little minor stripe, but I don't think I would define it as like a stripy morph. Yeah, so you see how the snake is dark and sort of uniform? It is the polygenic tendency to IMG is IMGing something uniform. If you go look at a sterling, it has the same sort of look. I would call it like a patternless animal, even though it looks like it has a stripe. Whatever. This is semantics. No, yeah. So there's nothing wrong with most of them, but every once in a while they'll throw an animal that has a motley looking head and is even more patternless. And they look like hot garbage. But otherwise they're fine. Does that make sense?
A little bit, yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot of words and information.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
My brain has grown 10 sizes today.
Let's
move on to the last page.
No,
there's many more pages.
I'm not doing any of no, this is like all the notes I ever write for anything. So we're done.
Oh.
What I'm saying is almost every other morph is probably fine. There could be rumors of stuff, but God, if they're gonna fucking tell anybody about any of it. It takes a long time to drag out any information from anyone. Like I just learned that the Key West supers die at an unusual rate in birth. Probably a couple months ago. Cool. There are videos of like Brian's boas where he's like, I'm gonna breed for super maroons, and those are like 1-year-old videos. And everyone's like in the comments, you didn't know that the super is basically non-viable. He's like, I guess not. Fuck. We do a really terrible job of like explaining stuff to people. For monetary reasons mostly, in my opinion. But most of the other boa morphs are fine. Aneries are fine, T+s are fine. Arabesque, which is a circleback letter tail, is fine. It's a dominant one, has no super, so turns out it's fine. Weird.
Okay, so tell me some of your favorites that are fine.
I like VPI. That's my favorite. Probably just base gene.
And that's a high-end one. Is that a co-dominant, incomplete dominant, or a...
It's a recessive albino type.
Oh, that's the like premium line of albino.
Right.
You have an IMG VPI.
Yes.
Is that why he has such amazing red eyes?
Yes, a normal...
I didn't realize he was albino because he's black.
Isn't that cool? He's not really black. He's like burgundy, purple, black.
He's like the raddest color ever. I didn't realize that was VPI.
Yeah.
Well, that was albino.
That's why he's badass and expensive. Better not have a real.
Yeah, no, that litter is what, like a $50,000 litter or more?
Yeah. We'll see how many babies are born. So VPI IMGs are like 3,500 with no additional genes, 3,000. Combos are like 5,000 or whatever. It's very cool look. Like it's when you take away, you add black, but then make it purple. It's like, oh fuck, I don't know what's happening. It's
Yeah.
been
No,
around
he's
for a
my
while.
favorite of your snakes.
Yeah.
Like
But a regular
fucking
IMG
hot.
is just black, but with like gold or silver speckles where like the pattern is still like there. So that's cool too. Yeah,
So now
I guess IMG is my
IMG,
favorite incomplete dominant, and
I was
well,
just gonna say that's
or
an incomplete dominant.
well, dominant.
So
There's
half
no
of the
super.
babies
Sorry.
are gonna be the IMG.
Mm-hmm.
Now is the mom het VPI,
Yeah, she's hypo, incomplete dominant,
which is an
double
incomplete
het,
dominant.
VPI, snows, anery type 1. So
So the babies will be 50 snow, 100% or visual
right.
VPI.
The expensive recessive.
Can you see hypo in IMG?
Yeah. Wait, yeah, a lot. It almost ruins IMG, but sometimes it's good because it fights equally.
Whoa. That's not what I expected.
Hypo
I just Googled it.
hypo wins too much. So I intentionally picked a non-hypo male because I knew both of my female het VPIs had hypo in it. I didn't want to make super hypos. So you can sometimes not even tell there's IMG in there. You have to wait for them to maybe mature and show it.
Enough to darken.
Right. But I don't want that. One hypo copy is plenty.
So are you going to hold a female back that doesn't have hypo? Can you breed that close together in boas?
Yeah.
Like a daughter to a dad?
Like one time and then outcross the next time or whatever. I'll hold the females, but I don't necessarily know if it'll be to breed them to the dad. I'll just buy a different dad with the same genes plus more.
That's fair. What are you trying to create to keep from that?
Mostly just females. Visual females, which sounds crazy. I would prefer not to keep that many hypo IMG VPI daughters, maybe one or two, but I would keep a couple of the whatevers so that they could be comboed out and make IMG VPI habaneros. Like I could breed a leopard over them and make the habanero version a generation from now.
Okay.
I can't seem to make my het leopard breed, is what I'm saying. So like, if I can't get the females to breed, then maybe I can get the males to breed over Colombian type females.
You have het leopard males?
I have a het leopard female, the one I've been trying to breed for 3
Right, the one
years.
that can't breed. Yeah, no, we've talked about her a lot. I just wondered if you also had a male.
IMG VPI females, 2 years I'll go buy a leopard het VPI male or a homozygous habanero. I don't give a shit. And then put that over them and then combo that way. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
You always need, as with anything, female visual recessives to do stuff with, as always. I also like angels, which are Central American plus another T plus combos. They look like pearls or something. They're a very strange color. So I could make, use the females to make archangel double hets to play with later too. You always just need to make females mostly, because it takes so long to raise them up.
Yeah. And they take up a lot of space.
They take up a lot of space. So, like, technically after this year, I could just look at all my females and be like, if you aren't born costing more than $3,000, I'm just not going to keep you anymore. And only keep
that seems fair.
Females that are, like, I have fire females from this year. They don't cost $3,000, but they can make super fire babies with a fire male. So I could just keep fire females and IMG females and like high-end VPI combo females, like a VPI snow glow, and then not have anything else. Like of my 10 adult female boas, they could all be really high-end or something stupid. That's the thought at this point. Like if you can only have 10 for space reasons, what 10 are you going to keep? A $200 one or a $2,000 one? The most expensive codoms are Scoria, Fire, IMG, and Labyrinth. I don't have Labyrinth, and I'm not going to get Scoria.
So we didn't even talk about Labyrinth.
Yeah, so far it's okay. I bet you the Super, though, has problems that haven't been reported.
Hey, that's striping, too.
Yeah, it looks like a jungle that's lost its mind, to me. There's a color difference, pattern reduction, and pattern aberrancy. It's also incomplete dominant. It has a Super that's called a crystal. It's sort of like a Blue Eye Lucy, like a patternless-ish, white, creamy colored thing with blue eyes. I didn't have any bad news to report about it, so I ignored it. But it's in the list of things that are fine until further notice. But I would assume I am suspicious of it.
Suspicious of lots of morphs.
Yeah, Dave Palumbo has one, and Jeff Ronnie has one, and some other people have made them. They don't die right away, so that counts for something. But are they sterile? I don't know. That's it. Those are my boas. Do you have any questions about
Well,
boas?
that's bad news, boas.
Yeah, I think the moral...
I didn't know we were in for bad news.
The moral of the story is boas are a broken thing. If you're going to break pattern, you break something important in the boa. So the boa morph game is always going to be like this. The heterozygote is usually going to be pretty good. The homozygote, you're rolling your dice. If we know they have problems, you should not be breeding them to double check. Or out crossing them to another normal and breeding it back. We already know they have problems. It's not a surprise. It's not a mystery. I'm telling you now. You don't believe me, that's fine. But you're an asshole for making another super jungle again. To check again. It's been 20 years. How many times?
They're broken.
They're broken.
Almost all supers are broken. So the super fire isn't fine. Broken?
It's the same eyeball and skin tissue.
The moral of the story is go over the border and vaccinate.
So super fires have babies, but it's not one of those things where I see people breeding super fires and they have all slug clutches. Why is that? Is it because they have arena, or their snakes are too fat, or is it because there's something wrong with super fires where they have a lower fertility? I can't tell, so I'm not going to say that, but no, with absolute certainty, the ones that I've mentioned here, other stuff is pending. Just I know we think most ball pythons are fine, but I'm pretty sure most homozygote ball pythons have more problems than we think of. Homozygote incomplete dominance.
Yes,
I agree. We just haven't figured it out yet.
The super blacks and the super cinnamons and there's a lot of supers that have problems. Super spot nose.
But even stuff like super blackhead wobbles at a 20-25% rate sometimes. Didn't wobble before. It was fine. I've heard rumors about super GHIs. They have small heads. They absolutely do. I've seen a lot of examples of it. I've heard rumors of them having extra skin that they just sort of grow into. I'm I don't know if that's true or not, but okay. I don't have any super GHIs, can't tell you. And I've heard this about other ones too. And I think we're just ignoring them in ball pythons because it's just oh, it's out the door. Bye.
That's such an interesting...
super lessers are fucked. Their eyes are fucked. They're ugly. There's a lot of things with narrow heads, pinched heads. I can't tell if they're from the genes or incubation, because incubation can give a narrow head.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. But I'm saying we don't have that many people working with just the supers of incomplete dominance to be yep, this whole incomplete dominance, females are sterile. Males aren't. I feel we don't know that. I'm not confirming any whatever, but I'm just saying I think there's more to be learned about ball python supers also. But ball pythons
more to be
don't
learned,
look at hot garbage dog shit too when they're born and they're super, the way a super Motley boa looks when it's born. That's it.
Yes. That was a lot of information. Hopefully you guys followed along with the pictures that are going to be posted in the comment section of the YouTube episode. It won't be on the podcast one, right? They don't let you do that, or they do? You have to
click in through your little spot. I do show notes on both, but you have to click in. Most people don't even look there.
Okay. It'll be interesting to listen back. I'm gonna listen back without the show note or the links and see how we did.
Yeah, I don't know if we did that great, but that's okay.
Episode 12.
If our interview goes good, we will have episode 13 as our first interview episode. If it doesn't go
say
good,
who it is, or no, okay.
Just in case schedules don't work. If you curse it,
that's fair.
Yeah, he's still planning on coming up, but if something happens, I don't know. You never know. Don't curse it.
Stay tuned for our first ever interview. That's hopefully not hot garbage.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. He's a coherent adult. You don't really have to even direct him too much. I think you just let him loose and he would do fine by himself. Yeah.
Where can they find you?
Hare Farm on Instagram. But if you want to message a rebuttal or response, message us on the new Instagram for the podcast.
You can find me on Instagram, ASM Royal Tails. If you have questions, you can message me or you can message us on our Instagram. Holdback Rack Podcast.
Bye.
Bye.